Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664, The Road to Human Kindness. I'm Les Winston. I'm the national spokesperson for socialcharity.org. And my guest today in the first segment is me. I'm going to interview myself. I'm here with Wanda. Wanda's going to have some questions later about what we're talking about. But I wanted to clarify exactly where we are with this project and why we're working so hard to make the public aware of what we're doing. The first part of this is that we would like to get more professional philanthropic advisors in the community, not only in our community, but in the national community. We need to have more people who are skilled in how to use social charity devices. Those devices are charitable remainder trusts, charitable pooled income funds, and charitable gift annuities. And the reason why it's important for advisors to learn how to use those devices and to properly suggest them to their clients when they're appropriate is it helps the clients by increasing the income that they'll be able to receive later in life or currently. It helps them by reducing their taxes, and it also helps them help the community. We're in a very interesting time in our country. We do have some very serious problems at a very high level. When I say they're serious, they're not things that we can't overcome, and they're not things that are, written in stone that have to remain the way they are. Problems can be resolved, and as Americans, we've always found ways to solve the problems of our country in the unique ways that our creative ambitions have helped us to accomplish. And so this is something that Congress actually foresaw a long time ago. In 1969, they created Section 664 of the tax code, as well as other sections. But we're stressing Section 664 because we want you to become familiar with that particular number. Just as you're familiar with 401k and 529 or 1031 or 1035, those are all sections of the tax code. And Section 664 is a unique section of the tax code that we call social charity, which allows you to create income for yourself, reduce your taxes, and also leave something of a legacy behind. The advisory community needs to become more familiar with how to use these devices and the nuances behind the devices, because there are so many different methods of using, for example, a charitable remainder trust in order to eliminate a capital gains tax on a transaction, or to reduce income tax overall for an annual to lower the annual taxes that an individual will have to pay. And it is a way for you to also show your human kindness, to be able to say, I am a voluntary philanthropist. I'm not a tax-paying involuntary philanthropist. I understand that I can do things to change the world and to change my own situation by taking action and working with an advisor that knows how to do that. So if you're in the advisory community out there and you want to learn how to do this work, here's my cell phone number, 305-773-5167. It's 305-773-5167. You can call me and discuss with me how we're going to educate you. We will have a program starting very soon that will allow the mentoring of professional philanthropic advisors to be able to create more individuals in the community or communities who know how to do this work. So if you're in the financial planning world, or if you're a lawyer or an attorney, or a CPA, or in any other of the financial professionals, please feel free to give me a call to discuss how we can go forward and make you more aware of how you can use these particular devices, these social charity devices, for your clients. The reasoning behind that is if we've found through past work that when we create a professional philanthropic advisor in a community, that advisor automatically increases the charitable wealth of that community substantially. The more professional philanthropic advisors there are, in other words, the more advisors in the community who understand how to do this work, the greater the charitable wealth in that community. And if we create more charitable wealth, we will create more endowment. And if we create more endowment, we will relieve some of the burden from the government and also help the community by providing services that nonprofit organizations are supposed to be providing but need funding for. So if we just change the perspective that you have, if you are currently working with clients and you want to understand how to do this kind of planning using social charity, you need to invest some time and effort in learning the nuances behind this. I'm more than willing to help you in that direction and find a way for you to be able to increase that ability.
What if you
Yes,
are
Wanda.
a college student
Mhm.
in your early, I guess maybe a finance or business student? Maybe your direction would be to financial planning. What would they do? Or can you learn that in school, or they have to go to the American college? Definitely.
Well, the American College is one way. The American College offers the Chartered Advisor and Philanthropy designation. In order to qualify for that designation, in order to qualify for that educational course, there are some prerequisites. I'm more than happy to help students who are in the financial world who want to become professional philanthropic advisors. I'm willing to help them along that path in the early stages of mentoring. In other words, you need to get ready for the full-blown Chartered Advisor in Philanthropy designation. However, you can learn and understand how to use social charity devices without the full-blown Chartered Advisor in Philanthropy course. So what we are doing is setting up kind of an appetizer for you in order for you to understand what it's like to be a financial planner who has those skills and who's able to work with their clients, helping them create social charity devices. So the key words here are social charity. You can go to the website, socialcharity.org. On that website, we talk about solving a huge problem, changing the country from 30 trillion in debt to 30 trillion in endowment. When we talked to David Walker, who is the former Comptroller General of the United States, he suggested that our debt is greater than 30 trillion. That's what we see on paper. But there's also a lot of unfunded liabilities to pension plans for people who are entitled to receive benefits. And that number is really much greater than 30 trillion, but we have to start somewhere. And our objective is to create endowment to take the burden off of government first, but also to create endowment to take the burden off of nonprofit organizations so that they don't have to raise as much money. If we have created charitable wealth in a community, that endowed charitable wealth can help nonprofit organizations get past their deficits and get past their need for raising money. A lot of nonprofit organizations spend a lot of time raising money. What we're suggesting is we're going to help raise that money by helping the community help themselves. There's two forms of endowment. There's not only endowment to the nonprofit organization, but there's also endowment to the individual. And we're trying to endow individuals who will later endow nonprofits. This is all about how you can build income for your retirement. It's how you can reduce your taxes and how you can do something really good for the community. So our program, Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness, the human kindness comes at the end of the day when you have accomplished a legacy, something you've left behind, but it's also human kindness to think about it in terms of what you can do for others. The overall objective is to end poverty, disease, and protect the earth. If you want to look at it from the 30,000 foot level, the idea is if we are thinking about being kind, if we have a way to do that kindness that's very, very appealing because it provides us with income and also provides us with lower taxes, it makes it a lot easier to do the human kindness. So we ask you to get on board and take the trip with us down Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness. Yep. We've got a couple of tools that we've created, a couple of ideas that we've been generating in the media. We have our radio station, our digital radio station, which is run by Wanda, and where you can hear the interviews that we've been doing, which are relative to this whole idea of human kindness and philanthropy and planning using these social charity devices. We've also got a website, socialcharity.org, where you can go and find not the other professional philanthropic advisors around the country who are already working with social security advisors. So you can find an advisor in your area who can help you. And you can,
There are
yes,
a lot of them.
yeah, a lot of them.
But
And
we need more.
Yeah, we need more, and we need to create more. Right now, there's only about 2,000 in the country. Some work directly for nonprofit organizations, and some work for the public. So we need to increase that. We'd like to double that number in 3 years. And then from there, double that again in 3 years, so that we create a large critical mass of professional philanthropic advisors, large enough to be able to help solve this problem of endowing America and endowing its citizens with income, lower taxes, and the feelings of human kindness and being good to each other. We're going to be joined by one of our very special people who has been working with us for quite a while now on this project, and who has been kind enough to create his own show using his tremendous backlog of knowledge and experience in jazz. Les Haber joins us right now. How are you, Les?
Are you there?
I'm well.
Hi there, Les.
How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. So,
You're frozen.
yeah, I've been listening to the jazz, just jazz, and it's wonderful, just wonderful entertainment. Give us a little bit of a heads up on where you are taking the show. What's the general flavor of what you're doing with just jazz?
Well,
Les, you there?
I'm trying to mix classic stuff that goes back to the 50s with the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today, because it's a wonderful thing. I've been into jazz since I was 4 years old. I'm a fourth generation musician. My great grandfather played with the Moscow Symphony in the 1850s. He was a featured violinist. His son, my grandfather, ended up in New York in 1890. All he had was his flute and piccolo.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother, a phenomenal classical pianist. My older brother was a very good jazz pianist. And I think my first gig was when I was years old. But I got into listening to it when I was about 4. I was listening to Charlie Parker, Clifford Brown, Max Roach. Miles Davis was a kid, and he was a sideman with Cannonball Adderley. And I was actually really, I guess, blessed to be able to play with some of the greats today. My favorite that I met when we first came from Kingston, Jamaica, when we were teenagers, a gentleman named Monty Alexander, who is the best jazz pianist in the world today. So I'm trying to mix it all. Back about, I guess it's 10 or 12 years ago, we had something start called International Jazz Day, which is every single year, and it's now in over 250 countries. It started with, I think, 18 countries, and past President Barack Obama actually had International Jazz Day at the White House in 2016, which is probably the best hour of music I've ever seen. It was part.
When's Jazz Day? International Jazz Day?
When is it? When is
International
Jazz Day?
Jazz Day is the I think it's you asked me that. It's I think it's the last day in March every year.
Right.
Got it.
So Miami,
you find
yeah, go ahead.
One of them on YouTube.
So your history in Miami, the history of jazz in Miami, is pretty significant. Tell us a little bit about some of your early experiences as a young musician.
Is. I spent a lot of time in Overtown and Liberty City. I went to college on a music scholarship, Miami-Dade, met a great bunch of musicians there. And after our gigs, we would go to either the Salon, in Overtown, or the Mary Elizabeth was a couple of blocks away, or there was a place that was a blues club called Baker's Four Corners on Northwest 2nd Avenue and about 18th Street. And then a club that's been made into a national monument called the Hampton House on 27th Avenue, just off of the Expressway. And at the Hampton House, I was very lucky to be able to meet people like Count Basie, Hubert Laws, Cannonball Adderley, just so many of the great musicians back then, and I'm talking early 60s. They'd play on Miami Beach, but they couldn't stay there because they were black, so they would stay in either Overtown or Liberty City. Jam sessions with some of the music ever. And I'm very, very lucky to play with them. And so did Monty at the time. It's before Frank Sinatra discovered Monty and made him into a stellar star. But that's a whole other story.
And those are the stories that some of those stories you're telling on Just Jazz. And when is Just Jazz being played now? Wanda, when is it coming up on the schedule?
It's on Sunday.
Yes.
At 11 a.m., but we'll be doing a replay Thursday tonight at 7.
Okay.
So if you missed Sunday's show, catch it on Thursday.
Okay. So every Sunday at 11 and replayed on Thursdays at 7.
Yes.
And the music is all chosen by Les Haber with a little bit of history on each piece, so that you get the flavor of jazz. So you're a drummer primarily, right? Are you totally into drums, or is it other things? You're a drummer.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me from the standpoint of great drummers, who are the greatest drummers?
I used to play some bass, and I could still play a little. There's so many of them. Elvin Jones, Philly Joe Jones, kids I grew up with, Jimmy Chapek. There are so many fantastic drummers that I consider mentors, and some that are still around. Used to go to the top of the collection on Sunday for Latin Jam, and that was Tito Puente, and it was sometimes as many as 30 musicians. And I actually met a guy, Andito, who I think is just a phenomenal percussionist, and actually bought congas from him back in the 70s that I still have. And both of my kids want them, and they'll have to fight over them. But so growing up here,
one other thing, the percussion. When you're dealing with music, when you're dealing with the jazz albums, most people don't talk about the other people that are on the albums. How important is that? Other than just the name. In other words, if it's the Count Basie band, or if it's a quartet or a quintet,
it's important to know who the musicians are. Well, people basically don't know who the players are in a lot of groups unless they're very familiar with them. Pardon?
They become more familiar with them when their names are given. So I noticed that you do talk about who accompanies some of these people when you're dealing with on your jazz show on Just Jazz. And that's very interesting to find out who the other players are, because some of them are pretty well known.
No.
Okay.
Well,
right. We're getting a bad signal, Les, unfortunately. Yeah, and it's impairing our ability to hear you. So what I want to stress is Route 664 radio is a mix of a lot of information. It carries the interviews that we've been doing here on Route 664, and it also covers jazz, classical music, and then there's the wonderful eclectic collection of Wanda's choices as she goes through the day.
Positive music,
but all
it's from
positive stuff.
all genres that I can find. We have country, we have classical, we have pop, we have R&B, we have electronic, and it's
Reggae.
all awesome. Some reggae, of course.
Ska?
And, nah, I wouldn't go ska.
No ska. Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Ska is, I don't know ska as well.
Are we
so.
introducing any new artists?
There are a few new artists that, and contemporary Christian artists, which are some of my favorite, but they're, it's easy on the condemnation, heavy on the love. It's all love music.
It's all about human kindness.
Exactly. So,
okay.
it's great
So
stuff.
going back to what we were talking about earlier, thank you, Les, for spending time with us this morning. And please tune in to Just Jazz on Sundays at 11 and then replayed at Thursdays at 7 p.m.
Correct.
And you can check out our schedule, which is on.
One more thing, Shambhala is electronic. It's he plays house music, and that's 9:00 Fridays, and then replays throughout the week usually. But that's kind of when I feel like it. I don't have the schedule. It's on the schedule. Check our schedule every day.
Shambhala is like our house DJ, and
on Facebook. Yes,
on Facebook.
Yes.
So go to Facebook and check out Social Charity on Facebook, and you'll find everything about the Route 664 radio station there, and put it on. Listen to it in your office all day.
You will dance.
Yeah, you'll get
Warning.
happy feet.
You might get some happy feet for sure.
So, all right. Well, I want to go back to the original thing that I was talking about, and that's the reason for the show. If you like what we're doing, if you want to support what we're doing, you can contribute to our cause. You can donate online at socialcharity.org. Any gift is worth a lot to us, so please consider that. What we're doing is intended to change the world in a nice way into the area of human kindness, and your support will help us to continue doing what we're doing. And again, I'm going to repeat my offer. If you're a professional out there, or you're a student, or someone who wants to become familiar with social charity devices, or even if you want to create a social charity device for yourself, or you want to learn how it can help you individually. For example, if you have appreciated stock that you're looking to sell, but you don't want to pay the capital gains tax, and you want to do something good for your community, but you also want to get a significant tax deduction, there are ways to use social charity devices to help you do that. We've created several pooled income funds that you can invest in right now to get your tax deductions and to create income for yourself. If you want more information on that, I'm going to give you my cell phone number again. I guess this is dangerous, but 305-773-5167. If my phone explodes, I'll just get a new phone. So give me a call if you want to learn more about social charity devices, how Route 664 can lead you to human kindness, what you can do with these planning devices, how they can help you in the long term, and also if you're an advisor and wants to become more familiar with all of the different parts of the social charity world, I'm glad to help you along that line, along that road. It can be a bumpy road if you're getting involved in very detailed things, as we've talked about with Brad Guanto, when you're dealing with charitable lead trusts, for example, or you can, do something very positive with the legacy and planning your legacy properly. Working on how you do this planning is a focusing exercise, which I think is vital to anybody who has wealth, who has assets, who is considered affluent. And affluence these days is not just the ultra rich. Affluence comes down to people who have income and who are paying taxes and who own property and who are trying to create value in their later life and how they can create income that they can sustain over a long period of time. We sound very similar to Social Security. Social Charity is named purposely to sound like Social Security because it's very similar, and the similarities are huge. The government granted both Social Charity and Social Security. Both produce income. Both are social devices and need to be understood as we go forward.
One seems a little less secure.
Well, Social Security has been tainted with a lot of publicity, which is talking about how it's not going to be around. And young people today are skeptical about it, and rightfully so, because there are some issues that have to be straightened out. But as our good friend David Walker said, it's important that the government makes sure that their promises are kept. They may not be kept in the same way as they were before. The amounts will be different. The taxes will be higher. The date that you'll be able to be eligible will be longer. And so there are going to be some changes made to that. And that's why supplementing Social Security with social charity is a really good idea. At the end of the day, with Social Security, the money just kind of goes into the ether, and the government gives you $255 to take care of your remains. But with social charity, what remains goes into the community, and you have the ability to direct that into the community. And that's a big difference when you have control over what you're leaving behind, as opposed to not having control. That's a big factor. And you can also do a lot more with social charity than you can with Social Security, because it's unlimited. You can put as much into that as you want. The other factor is that you can use non-cash assets to build your social charity account. You can't do that with Social Security. You can't send the government a stock certificate and tell them you want to make that your contribution to Social Security, but you can do that with social charity. So learn more about it. I'm happy to help you along that road. If you want, you can call me 305-773-5167.
He's so funny.
I'm going to get killed for that. Okay.
Not
Anyway,
after midnight.
yeah, right. Exactly. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in and listening on Route 664 Radio.
Yep.
And we look forward to being with you again next week, and have a great week. Take care of yourselves and
Be kind
pray
to one another.
Yeah, be kind for one another. And pray for people in need. Pray for people who are being who are in difficult situations right now,
Pray for
anywhere
you.
in the world. It's a really important thing we can do. Thank you for joining us on the road to human kindness.